If you are looking for a new job, you know it is still an employer's market. And it is extremely tempting, I totally get it, to take the first offer that comes to you. But believe me when I say I have lived long enough to know that there are some factors that should not be ignored when considering your next job offer. Things that will cause you stress, anxiety, and make sure that you're looking for a new job in a matter of months. So today I want to talk to you about the red flags that you should not ignore. Hi, I'm Kristen. I'm a former attorney and tech exec turned executive career coach. I help mid to senior level corporate women get promoted and transition into work they love. So the number one red flag, and you might have heard this before, but if anyone says to you, we're a family, you should absolutely run. In my experience, families do not always have good boundaries. And in that same way, this might be an organization that takes advantage of your free time, asks you to shift without any notice, and refuses to evolve or be respectful. They also might take advantage of your time, be abusive, and not pay you what you're worth. And yet at the same time, families are loyal in the way corporations are not. If you've ever been laid off, you probably understand my point. Corporations have a duty to their shareholders and not to their employees. I can tell you that my family, if I lost my job and I was in a situation where I was going to be homeless, they would never kick me out. But a corporation, knowing that I was living paycheck to paycheck, they wouldn't hesitate. A better, healthier analogy that you want to hear from organizations is we are a team, much like a sports team. You might be traded, you might be asked to play a different position. If you don't perform, we might not renew your contract. And yes, you are a solid and valuable member of this organization, but a good organization will make it clear that they are paying you to be here. You have an at-will contract, and circumstances can change at any moment because that is the truth. Okay, number 2, they are unwilling to negotiate salary. So most organizations, and it is the law in a number of states, that you must publish this information, but they have a salary band. So they have a low to high range based on the skills and the impact that they believe you will bring to the organization. But it's my belief and experience that if they are unwilling to negotiate your salary, or they're not clear about why, then you are easily replaceable and they're not going to value you as an individual and the skills that you are going to bring. Years ago, when I was transitioning from legal practice to legal tech, I interviewed with an organization that offered to pay me less than what I was currently making, which is a weird thing to do because typically you don't jump ship to make less money. And I wasn't making very much money because I was working for the government at that time. So when I attempted to negotiate my salary, they refused to budge. And here was what the reality turned out to be. There are a lot of lawyers that get into the practice of law and then realize it is not for them. So a legal alternative job was a very viable opportunity for a lot of individuals. So much so that this organization knew that they did not have to make an effort to recruit talent, develop talent, train talent, or help individuals succeed in their career. Now, if you just need a job, I completely get it. But if you want to go somewhere where you will be challenged, where you will learn, where you will grow, and where you will be considered valuable, this is not the organization for you. Number 3, unlimited vacation. Now, this can go one of two ways. I'm going to do the bad and then I'm going to do the good. So years ago, again, when I practiced law, interesting that a lot of my stories are from when I practiced law. I worked for a firm that touted they had unlimited vacation. But what that really meant in practice was that nobody was able to take their vacation, especially litigators, of which I was one. And if you have seen my video on productivity, you understand the value of rest and checking out for an extended period of time. But the reality of this organization meant that even if I had booked a vacation, they could recall me at any moment. And here's what actually happened. My mother at the time had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, stage 3. I had taken family and medical leave time to care for her. And when I came back, in order to make up my billable hours, I was asked to work weekends. And that was something that I was really limited in doing because I was still one of her primary caretakers. So after I came in on a Saturday and refused to come in on a Sunday, I was pulled into a room with 3 partners who told me that they didn't think this was the place for me anymore because I wasn't meeting my billable hours. And they did this despite knowing that my mother was suffering from cancer. So that was one of my career low points, and I don't want something like that to happen to you. An unlimited vacation at these types of organizations is too often a theory and not a practice. But there is a right way to do unlimited vacation, and I want to explain to you why some organizations might be doing it and what it looks like. So at my last corporate role, which was a great role, by the way, the company had unlimited vacation for US workers, but they had timeframes for workers in other countries. It was a global organization. So when I began, I asked, what does this mean in practice? And one of my colleagues said, it's 5 weeks in the US. The reason for this was because in a number of states, the law had changed about paying people out for the vacation, and they could negate that if they just made it unlimited. Although they did have pretty clear guidelines about what was acceptable. The other thing with regard to that experience was I saw my boss take vacations, 3 weeks here, 2 weeks here, a week at Christmas. So it wasn't merely theory, it was actual practice, and I had examples from leadership who were using it. Number 4, we need a multitasker. So any of these lines, we need a multitasker, a jack of all trades, someone who can deal with ambiguity. This means that somebody has decided that they don't have the time to define the role for you. And it's really hard to succeed at something that isn't well defined. It also allows them to take advantage of your skill set, plug you into places that maybe you weren't trained to be, and it could be possible that they take advantage of your time and your talents, asking you to work all hours of the day and night. Not to mention the fact that there have been multiple scientific studies that show it is impossible to multitask. Every time we switch tasks, we waste 20 minutes trying to get back on track. So this is not really a very fruitful endeavor, especially if this is a mature organization. And I've seen all kinds of bosses be abusive because they expect you to be a mind reader. So if you have any of these inklings as you're reading the job description or going through the interview process, I would say this is a hard no. Number 5, dry cleaning, dinner, ping pong tables in the office. There is no amount of toys or presents that can make up for a lack of culture. And a lot of times, especially when we have this return to office mandate from a number of larger organizations this year, this can mean that they value your presence over what you're actually producing. And this tells me that leadership is very interested in power and control rather than allowing you to succeed and be autonomous in the ways you need to be. And visibility will probably be a precursor to promotion. So you really have to think about if this is someone that you really are at your core, and there's nothing wrong with that. If you like being in the office, if you really understand how people in leadership work and you're willing to do that dance. But if you're someone who is there to work and wants to learn and grow on a different level, this can be a huge red flag. Number 6, we're a startup and we expect you to be nimble. So this to an extent can be true, especially with newer organizations. They don't yet know what they need and things can shift in a minute. But you want to have a well-defined lane that you can stay in so there's not a lot of ambiguity and you can't be punished for doing the wrong thing. Also, again, and I said this with the multitasking example, this can be a way that they take advantage of your time and your talents and they don't pay you adequately. But I want to show you a positive example of what this might look like. So at my last organization, I was promoted in the midst of my tenure there. In preparing for my new role, I spent a weekend curating data and creating a presentation for the chief of staff of my new boss. When I got to the meeting on Monday, I said that I compiled the information over the weekend, and she stopped me cold in my tracks and she said, "Kristen, don't ever do that again. It is not expected that you work weekends. If you need to push a deadline and we could have met on Wednesday or Thursday, that would have been acceptable. And my expectation is that you do that in the future. If you don't have a healthy work-life balance and there are not boundaries within that organization, you will burn out. It will create anxiety and stress, and you will inevitably be unhappy. So it's better to highlight any of these examples on the front end so you're not wasting your time and looking for another job within short order. And then the final lesson, and this is the most important one, is you need to listen to your intuition. Again with the law firm, but when I was a second-year law student, I had 3 offers to work as a summer associate at various organizations. And I sat down with my then boyfriend, we made an Excel sheet about the pros and cons of each offer. What was the commute? What was the salary? What was the prestige? How long would it take me to make partner? And we sat there and I couldn't figure out what I wanted to do. And he just kind of looked at me and said, well, it seems really clear, because there was one organization that stood out among the others. But the thing was, during the interview process, I had a really bad feeling about that organization. I ignored it and I went there and I was sexually harassed. It caused me a year of pain and anxiety. It crippled my self-esteem, and it is not anything I would wish on my worst enemy. So if you take away nothing else from this video, Listen to your intuition. And if you're one of those individuals where you feel like you have a hard time hearing it, I have made a video to talk about that, and I'm going to link that below as well. Have you found this helpful? If so, I would love if you would share, like, and subscribe. I am here to curate a community of like-minded, kind, generous individuals where we help prop each other up and navigate corporate America. I come out with new videos each week, and until then, take care.